What is up everyone, and welcome to some more F1 23 My Team Career Mode, and we are here for round number 16 of Season 5 of our Jaguar Racing career, and we're going to be at the Italian Grand Prix in Monza. We come off the back of a disappointing result in Zandvoort. We struggled to get to P14, I believe it was in the end, outside of the points for the first time since goodness knows when. I think around Baku or China or something like that was the last time we failed to score points in this season. We had been on a very strong run of form up until then, winning 5 out of 8 races between Monaco and Belgium. But finally, our good run of form kind of came undone in Zandvoort, and now we have to try and pick up the pieces as best we can in Monza and try and get back into the points, because we are under a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit of threat. The only team making any development gains in Zandvoort was the Alpha Tauris, who have closed the gap a little bit to the Alfa Romeos, so maybe we could see a fight for not last on the grid between those guys. Meanwhile, everybody else kind of sticking to where they were beforehand. And yeah, we are a little bit vulnerable now in the championship. Our lead going into Zandvoort was 41 points, but as you're about to see, it has now come down to just 15 points after Lando Norris won with fastest lap and we failed to score in Zandvoort. He has really opened this championship up again after I had a pretty commanding lead out of Zandvoort, or out of Belgium, I should say. But hopefully we can have a strong result here in Monza and we can extend our advantage over the Mercedes driver, our fellow compatriot, of course, Lando Norris. Now, one thing that you will maybe remember if you watched the previous video, and if not, I will reiterate, there is going to be a regulation change at the end of this season, and we didn't know what it was going to be until today. They've told us now which departments are going to be affected, and we are going to have to try and invest some resource points into covering off as many developments as we can. Now we have almost 100,000 resource points, so I'm confident we should be able to cover off whatever comes our way. But they did say it would affect multiple departments. That could be 2, it could be 3. I've never seen it be all 4, and it's not on this occasion either. But the chassis, powertrain, and durability departments are all undergoing regulation changes. Now when I looked here, I was actually a bit surprised to see that there's still an engine upgrade that is yet to be delivered, and obviously that won't be delivered now. But yeah, we're just going to quickly speed through all of these, so if you have photosensitive epilepsy, please look away now. Probably should have said that a little bit quicker, but yeah, this is probably not going to be particularly pleasant to look at for anyone, quite frankly. But yeah, just zooming through all of these covering off of upgrades, and in doing so, we have spent about 32,000 resource points, I believe, something like that. So there we go, and that's that. We've covered off all of the things we needed to cover off, and we only spent about a third of our resource points. So all's well that ends well, and now we don't have to worry about next season. And if we're being hopeful, probably we should be the fastest car on the grid next season as well now, which will be nice to see. And we can contend for lots of wins and podiums early on in the season and really take the fight to our opponent. Not that, I'm hoping that we can win both championships this season, so it will be a defense that we can mount quite quickly next season, but we will see whether that transpires or not. For those of you who are wondering, as we get through practice, for the record, in practice my pace was pretty fine here, but I just didn't go out at the right time to really kind of make the most of it. But yeah, for those of you who are wondering with regards to sort of F1 24 and that kind of thing, I've worked out that I can probably afford to do 2 more seasons after this one before F1 24 comes out. So that's the plan as things are. We're going to do this season, we're going to do season 6, and we're going to do season 7, much like we did on the previous game. Do a 7-season career mode and go from there. Yeah, so that's the intent. But we will see how things transpire. Things could change between now and then. Anyway, time to get into qualifying now, and you can see that we are on a fresh set of soft compound tyres, and it wasn't the greatest opening lap here, so it probably will require us to go again in order to get through to the next session. 1:17.4 on that fresh set of soft compound tyres, only faster than the Hasses from what I can tell at the moment. So yeah, definitely will require another run. You can see we're actually down in P17, so it's a good job we did go again. But we improved by about 2.5 tenths. This should hopefully see us through to the next session. and it's a 1:17.0, which I think was faster than Doohan. It puts us P14, so actually we're going to need a much better run in Q2 if we want to make it through to Q3. Same with Doohan as well, because he, I think, was only P16 here. He did make it through, but both Albon and Norris made it through here as well. So yeah, we're going to need a much better result if we want to make it through to Q3. No shocks once again. Both Alpha Tauris, both Hasses, and both Alfa Romeos out here in Q1. That's about what you would expect based on the relative performance of these teams and the performance levels of their drivers as well. If anything, I'm a little bit surprised that Alfa Romeo didn't do a bit better there, because they've probably got the strongest driver pairing of the bunch. But we will see how things fare as we continue into Q2 now. We're on a used set of soft compound tyres to kick things off, and we'll see what kind of time we can do on the used rubber. It's a 1:18.2, not a very good lap time, our worst lap time of the weekend so far. We're going to need about 1 second of improvement minimum, I would say, to make it through into Q3 here. Unfortunately, we are improving by quite a fair amount. We're almost 1.3 seconds up, which is about what we need to do to get through to the next session, I would say. Meanwhile, you can see that there's going to be some big names being knocked out here in Q2. We're improving by 1.4 seconds as we come on the run to the line. It's a 1:16.8, and is that good enough? No, it's not. It's only P11. What a disaster. We're out for the second time in a row in Q2, and we will see who is joining us as we make another early exit from qualifying. Meanwhile, Jack Doohan making it through once again. Good result for him. But you will notice that whilst the Mercedes of Alex Albon has made it through, Lando Norris is in P15. He will be starting 15th for the Italian Grand Prix. He joins myself along with Gasly, Lawson, Verstappen and Fittipaldi. Verstappen a bit of a surprise after his podium in Zandvoort as well. But, you know, starting P11 once again. Hopefully this will go better than Zandvoort. We started P11 and we can make some kind of recovery towards the points, and hopefully at least Lando Norris won't outscore us on this occasion. But we will see what we can do as we get into the Italian Grand Prix.
Monza, the oldest circuit on the calendar, which hosted its first race all the way back in 1922. Today we look forward to the Italian Grand Prix. It's raining out there. 3.6 miles of Monza circuit will therefore be pretty tricky in these low grip conditions. We've got the Parabolica, or as it's now known, the Curva Alboreto. It's going to put the drivers to the test. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. It's Sergio Perez on pole today. A very happy Carlos Sainz will start second. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Russell, Leclerc, Oscar Piastri, Magnussen, Doohan, Albon, Ocon, Hauger, Robinson, Gasly, Liam Lawson, Verstappen, Norris, Fittipaldi, Stroll, Sargent, De Vries, Hulkenberg, Tsunoda, and Zhou Guanyu. And now it's time to head down to the track. Anthony Davidson joins us in commentary for this one, and the main focus is right in front of us. It's a wet race. How does that affect your planning as a driver?
It is a touch damp, isn't it? Well, as a driver, there are three big things to worry about when racing in these kind of conditions: standing water, tyre temperature, and visibility. And judging distance to the cars around you is really tricky when you're driving through the vast amounts of spray that these wet weather Pirelli tyres kick up.
Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
Well, as if my day couldn't get any better, it's also raining, which means that even if Lando Norris on a dry track was going to carve his way through the field with some DRS, that fraud has absolutely no chance of scoring points here today. So our championship lead is probably safe here in Monza, I would say, especially because the rain is scheduled to last for the entire race. The heavens have opened here in Monza. Yes, it's only intermediate conditions, but we are also on a wet setup because I foresaw this coming. That's one thing I forgot to mention in qualifying. We switched from practice. I was on a dry setup, and when I realised it was going to be wet for the entire race, I switched to a wet setup in qualifying, which maybe sacrificed that performance. We were only a few hundredths of a second, I believe, off of making it through into Q3. But you know, we can't dwell on that. We just have to try and do what we can from P11 on the grid. You know, we've got some fast drivers starting around us, but I'm pretty optimistic about our chances of getting a good start here, hopefully getting up into the points. And now we will get ready to see what we can do as the lights come on and the lights go out as we switch to the replay camera, and you can see that we have had a pretty decent getaway here, although if not spectacular, as we come on the run down to turn 1. We're getting involved with the Aston Martin of Dennis Hauger there, but he dives up the inside of a few cars, and we're going to have to settle in behind him. He's actually putting the moves on Doohan. Meanwhile, I'm trying to go around the outside of Ocon and Albon, I believe that is, and I think we're up into P9 by now, by the looks of things. So we've made a couple of positions off the start. I would have liked to get ahead of Dennis Hauger, but actually he's had an absolutely brilliant start, and now Albon is coming back at us round the outside as we come on the run down to the next chicane. Who's going to lead here? I've got the outside line through the chicane, and that is going to allow me to stay in front of the Thai driver as we make our way back onto our onboard camera, or our TV pod camera, I should say. We've had a good start there, and hopefully now we can start to close down the cars in front. Our teammate Jack Doohan, our former teammate Dennis Hauger, our other former teammate Kevin Magnussen. You know, I love to make these references, but it is true. We've had what, 4 teammates in Formula 1 now, including Jack Doohan, who is our current teammate. And usually we find ourselves racing on a pretty even playing field with those guys. You know, they've all driven for either Aston Martin or McLaren at some point during their career. My own teammates included, although actually no, Fittipaldi does not fit in that box, I suppose, because he's only driven for Williams since he left our team. He joined them in Season 2, 2024, and hasn't left since that point. We are kind of in a no man's land already. We're 1 second ahead of Albon, over 1 second ahead of Albon, but we're over 1 second behind Jack Doohan here. So we're going to have to hope for a little bit of argy-bargy in front, I think, in order to catch up with them. And meanwhile, Ocon and Albon kind of going at it behind us. They're not really going to have too much to say to me. That said, though, my tyres were overheating a little bit, and as a result, that kind of brought Albon back into the fray against me a little bit, and you can see he might go for a move up the inside here as we brake nice and early. You have to brake so early into this corner. You saw how early I broke there, and still I didn't really make the corner. I didn't stay on the racing line at all. Albon outbroke me, and somehow still I was the one that didn't make the corner. So yeah, make it make sense, game. But I guess it's just the braking performance of the car. Interesting to see. Now we're looking on board, well, not on board, but on the replay camera of Carlos Sainz. He gets a bit hot and heavy through the first chicane and goes sailing into the barrier, rear wing first. Will he have rear wing damage, much like Lando Norris had in Hungary? We will have to wait and see. Do a weather check, and everything is fine, and you're going to see the Sainz incident again from my perspective, and the ensuing fallout of that. You can see that I broke quite late here, actually, and I almost ended up clipping my teammate Jack Doohan there. But Carlos Sainz's incident has brought out a red flag. There is a red flag here in Monza, and that is potentially going to give us an opportunity to make up even more positions off of the start as we get ready to see what the strategy is going to be for the rest of the race. I imagine it will just be switching on to another set of intermediate tyres, because they did say it was going to be raining for the rest of the race, and indeed light rain for the remainder of the race. 20 laps on the intermediate tyres. We are going to be struggling. We are going to be fighting the car through most of the corners towards the end of that stint. But that's what they say we're going to do, so that's what we're going to do. And we will see what we can do as the lights come on and the lights go out, and we've had a pretty decent getaway once again, much better than our initial getaway, I would say, and we're definitely going to be able to put the moves on Jack Doohan on the run down to turn 1. Meanwhile, Dennis Hauger, he is getting very busy on this restart, and he is going to try and go up into P2 down the inside of Russell and Perez. There's a lot of contact going on there between the three of them. Russell gets squeezed in between the two drivers, and he's lost his entire front wing, and perhaps unsurprisingly, that is a safety car. So Leclerc leading comfortably at his team's home race. Could it be a sensational victory for Ferrari? I say sensational because I'm fairly sure that Ferrari haven't won a race this season, or if they have, I think it's come at the hands of Carlos Sainz. No, I'm pretty sure they haven't, actually. I'm pretty sure he's had pole positions and he started towards the front and been leading races, but I don't think either of them have actually won a race this season. I could be wrong about that. So, yeah, it could be a chance to do something unprecedented for Charles Leclerc in this season. Russell had to box at the end of lap 8, and so that, as a result, has bumped me up into P6. And now we will see if we can maybe get a move done on Oscar Piastri up into P5. We've had a much better safety car restart than him, but we almost had to lift a little bit there to make sure we didn't overtake him before we got to the line, and we're going to see if we can go for a bit of a dive bomb up the inside of Oscar Piastri here, and we are going to go for a dive bomb up the inside of him and Magnussen and Hauger as well. Oh my goodness, I broke too late there, but somehow we've gotten away with it. We've frauded our way into a podium position. I was calling Lando Norris a fraud earlier. Look at that. What a move that was. If I'd have tried doing that on a human driver, I would have been in the wall faster than you can say triple overtake. But yeah, that was a hell of an overtake, all things considered. And we managed to get ahead of not only Oscar Piastri, but also two of our former teammates in Dennis Hauger and Kevin Magnussen. But Kevin Magnussen is going to try and come back at me around the outside of turn 3, I believe this is. And on the run down to the chicane, he might try and go for an overtake. Thinks better of it, and we're going to hold on through the chicane. But we go a little bit deep, and that might compromise us to our former teammate on the run through here. Seems like we might have just gotten away with it, and we're going to hold on to P3 into lap 12. Meanwhile, Perez and Leclerc breaking away out in front. Leclerc and Perez battling away for the lead here. You can see they're swapping positions all over the place. Meanwhile, I'm in very much a no man's land at the moment. Piastri and Magnussen 3+ seconds behind me at the moment, and we're looking pretty good here, all things considered, I would say, to hold on to this position. But there is another red flag. I'm not sure what this is for this time. I think there's something going on at turn 1 maybe between some of the cars there, and yeah, I'm not really sure. Seems like it was mostly just cars that aren't really involved in our race. And as a result, we're going to go on to another set of intermediate tyres. This is our third set of intermediate tyres. We'll see what we can do as the lights come on and the lights go out. Can we take the lead of the Italian Grand Prix here? Probably not, because Sergio Perez has had a start of dreams in the wet here, but Leclerc, his start was the stuff of nightmares, unfortunately, as he's already falling down into P4 off the podium. He was leading at one point. We've had a horrendous run into turn 1, and that is going to allow Sergio Perez to more than break away from me. Meanwhile, there's somebody who didn't seem to get going off the line there, or if they did, it was very premature. Looks like one of the McLarens. That will have to be Kevin Magnussen, I guess. I don't know what happened with him, but he is going to be out of the race and become the first retirement of the Grand Prix. Leclerc trying to put the moves on me. All that he's doing is allowing Sergio Perez to break further and further away. If Leclerc wants to get victory here, he's going to have to work with me to try and catch up to Perez first before he makes the overtake on me, because I am very, very deft at defending, especially in the wet weather with no DRS. I think these guys are going to find it very difficult to get past me. But if anyone can do it, I'm sure it is the the very, very capable hand of Charles Leclerc, someone who I'm considering making my teammate for next season. And if you have any thoughts on who my teammate should be, make sure to comment down below who you think I should sign for next season. Do you think I should keep Jack Doohan? That's also an option, of course. But, I am starting to actively look elsewhere, as Jack Doohan has had a bit of a struggle throughout this season. I think if we don't win the Constructors, I'll probably not re-sign Doohan. I think that's got to be the kind of decision here, is that if we win the Constructors, then Doohan can stay, but otherwise I think he's going to have to go. Meanwhile, Charles Leclerc trying to go for a move up the inside of me. We misjudged the braking, or do we actually, because we still struggle to make the corner, but Charles Leclerc, with that superior braking performance, somehow manages to make the overtake up into P2, and we're going to fall down to the last position on the podium, P3. I'm desperate to hold on to this podium, especially because I'm sure you probably haven't been paying attention, but I certainly was paying attention throughout the race, that I believe Norris is right at the back of the field, and the other McLaren of Albon is only in like P8 or something like that. So this is a really good opportunity for us to score points, not only for the Drivers' Championship, but also for the Constructors' Championship, to close that gap to Mercedes a little bit. Meanwhile, Piastri has got ahead of us for the time being, but we're going to go steaming back past him here on the run down to turn 1. But as soon as we pull out of the slipstream, we just seem to lose the performance. And there is another safety car here, and that is for Alex Albon, who's had some sort of incident through Parabolica. And that means that the last two cars in 20th and 21st on track are both of the Mercedes, and they are having another mare here. You might remember that they had a bit of a mare like that in Hungary, and a bit of a mare like that in Belgium as well. But once again, as we make our way on the safety car restart now, it seems that Mercedes are just having such a difficult time in Monza in these wet conditions. We are fighting 3 wide maybe with Oscar Piastri here and Charles Leclerc. Seems like Leclerc and Perez are in a bit of a battle of their own, but we're not letting up on Oscar Piastri. We're going to try and go up the inside through the chicane. Have we managed to make the move stick? I think we just about have, and we're going to hold Oscar Piastri behind, retake P3, and we're going to try and set off after this victory victory here in Monza if we possibly can on these two guys. They've been absolutely dominant in this race. It's only ever looked like it could be Perez or Leclerc winning this race, and who am I to try and upset the status quo here? We will see what we can do, but I think it is going to be easier said than done trying to get back past ahead of these guys. Next lap, we are on board with Yuki Tsunoda, and we're going to see what kind of trouble he's about to get himself into, because let's face it, why else would I be showing him to you? And you can see there's an Alpha Tauri that's gone round there. There's the Alpha Tauri of Lance Stroll. He's held up one of the Mercedes. I think the other one managed to get through unscathed. Yeah, that's Alex Albon that got held up there. Norris did manage to break through, and he held up Hulkenberg there as well. Now, the interesting thing about that is that despite the fact it was Stroll that spun, it actually resulted in a disqualification for Tsunoda and Hulkenberg for being stopped on track there. So that's 2 more cars out of the race. And as we make our way onto the final lap of the race, you can see that I've just ended up in a bit of a no man's land here. And it's just going to be a case of bringing it home to the checkered flag. What a weird Italian Grand Prix this has been. I can't stress that enough. This has probably been one of the strangest races we've had all series, quite frankly. Just, you know, 2 red flags, 2 disqualifications, a couple of safety cars, I think, yeah, 2 safety cars, and somehow we've managed to work our way from P11 to P3, which I don't really understand how we've done that either. I guess it was that triple overtake we make on the safety car restart, plus having a few good starts on the red flag restarts and things like that. You know, it's just enabled us to make our way up the order and into P3, and it's going to be, you can see that the Mercedes are still in dead last right now. Somehow Stroll, despite the fact that he spun round for ages and had to box, he's managed to get himself back ahead of both of the Mercedes, which I don't understand at all, because there was not a safety car that came as a result of that incident. But in any case, we are now going to round the final corner, and in one of the weirder Grand Prix that we've done this season, certainly, we are going to hold on to this P3 position. We're going to cross the line. It's going to be a victory for Perez.
Here we are then. It's a thoroughly deserved win here in Italy after another excellent Grand Prix. Anthony Davidson, what helped them deliver this result, do you think?
Well, they clearly have a car that comes alive in the kind of conditions we were dealing with today. It's a very balanced package in the wet, and what that means is that the drivers have confidence to attack, and having that confidence gets you on the power earlier, it lets you brake later, and can put you a long way up the road.
Red Bull are our winners today after showcasing some incredible driving. There's been a huge push from them lately to stay competitive with the other teams, and they're certainly proving themselves.
Well, that is another podium for us, and we have got ourselves out of a little bit of danger now, potentially, because as I said in the last race, we haven't had a DNF yet, and I just sense that it is coming at some point soon, and so that means that if we do have a DNF in the next few races, then we will still maintain this championship lead. It's a victory for Perez, P2 for Leclerc in Ferrari's home race. He won't be too disappointed with that, although I think he will have felt like he missed his chance to win, and we are going to claim P3 and another 15 points in this tight championship battle.
Robinson increases their championship lead. So then, it's time to see how this result affects the Drivers' Championship. So, Anthony Davidson, who would you rank as your driver of the day?
Well, there was a lot of incredible driving out there today, but if I had to pick someone, it's got to be Sergio Perez. Fantastic driving.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. The lead at the top comes down after a strong weekend from the challenging pack. Meanwhile, Ferrari have improved their position. A strong weekend for them as they fight their way towards the top. Been an absolutely wild weekend of Formula One action. I can't wait to see what's next.
Well, we have extended our lead in the championship to 30 points, and we've dropped Mercedes' advantage in the Constructors' Championship to just 27 points as well. So there is every chance in the world that within the next few races we could potentially take that championship lead in the Constructors' Championship. We could potentially extend our championship lead in the Drivers' Championship as well. Jack Doohan could only muster P9 in this race, unfortunately. So once again, not a chance that was fully taken here as Mercedes struggled to score any points. And yeah, we are going to have to go again in the next race. And I haven't shut up about it for about the last 5 videos, but it's finally here. The next race is Suzuka, the race I love more than anything in the world, the race I've won, I believe, 2 or 3 times already in my career, and I'm planning to add to that tally again tomorrow. You know, this is the race I've been hyping up as the one. This is the race I am so sure I am going to dominate. Lights to flag domination in Suzuka. That is my prediction. Pole position, fastest lap, lights to flag victory. That's what's going to happen tomorrow, because that is my pace at Suzuka. That is my track. That is the track that I pick if I get a choice of veto, for example, as one of the stewards in the Streamers and Co VRL, which is another series that I'm doing on this channel. If you're not watching that actively, then I would recommend going and checking it out, because the racing in it can get pretty crazy sometimes. But yeah, as a steward in that league as well, I was very generously afforded the opportunity to pick a race for the current season that we're racing in, and of course the track I chose was Japan. Japan has gone from, on previous years' games, actually being one of my least favourite tracks on the calendar to suddenly being my favourite, as we can watch back that triple overtake. And as you can see, there was nothing really wrong with that. Hauger got out the way, so what can you penalise me for? He moved out of the way. If he'd have stayed put and I'd have made contact with him, you could have made a case for that being my fault. But, you know, people argue this, and people have argued this in the league I race in as well. It's like, oh, I had to get out of the way because he was dive bombing me or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but if you get out of the way, there's nothing to penalise. There was no incident. There was no contact. So I don't know. I get people's argument that's like, what, so I have to ruin my own race just to get someone a penalty? And it's kind of like, well, if your race isn't ruined, then, you know, what's the thing? Yes, you've been overtaken, but big whoop, you allowed the overtake to happen on you. So yeah, it's certainly a bit of a contentious issue, I would say. But personally, I think that triple overtake was absolutely fine. Yes, I left it a little bit late on the brakes, but I made the corner. I didn't push Dennis Hauger off the track. That's the crucial thing there. He had room to stay on the track. If he'd been pushed off the track, then maybe you could have made a case for it. But yeah. Let me know. What did you think? Did you think that was a fair overtake? Do you think it was clean? Or do you think that maybe I should have, you know, braked a bit earlier and left Dennis Hauger even more room than I left him? I would love to know your opinion. But yes, next race, we're targeting the win. It's as simple as that. We're going to go for a win. Hopefully Jack Doohan can be up there on the podium with me for our first double podium finish this season. I would love to see that happen, and we will see if it rings true or not. But that is going to be it for this video. So if you enjoyed, please make sure you like and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.